Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So my name is Paulo and today we're going to be focusing on project management methodologies. Essentially going to be focusing on Waterfall, but also on Agile, specifically speaking Scrum, and then to close we're going to be talking about hybrid. Okay, so I've been working with project management roughly since 2012, okay, across different countries and also across different companies. Okay, so I'm quite keen to share my knowledge from a consultant's perspective, so stick around. Let's then talk about Waterfall. So Waterfall is one of the oldest project management methodologies that you're gonna have there, and essentially speaking, gonna be talking about a sequential design process. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that has in one single flow, does not allow for several iterations, does not allow for you to go back in loops. Okay, it goes in one go. Okay, so and it has different steps. Okay, so normally speaking, the steps you are looking at requirements. Okay, you're looking at design, you are looking at implementation, testing, and then let's say you're gonna have a fifth one that is around the maintenance. Okay, so I'm going to go a bit more into detail into this. Okay, when you're looking at requirement stage, essentially the objective is to get the requirements from your customer. Okay, and normally speaking, you have one of two ways of doing that. Or you have questionnaires that allow for you to get the information that you're looking for for instance, you have a discovery session that allows for you to get requirements, a brainstorming session with the client that allows for you to get what is it that you're looking for. Okay. After that, and when you have the requirements, then you jump into the design stage where essentially the team is building, let's say, the system is designing the system of how is it that this should work. Okay, and then you're gonna have the other stage that is around implementation. Okay, so this is where you already have the code built, you are doing the implementation, and then you have one next stage that is around everything that has to do with the testing, making sure that the system is secure, stable, okay, before you actually move to the next one where you are actually doing the delivery and closing the project with the customer. And then lastly, you're gonna have the maintenance where essentially you're gonna be working on some extra patches and bugs that you may have or that you can come across. Okay, but essentially that's it. Okay, in terms of benefits, I would say that Waterfall, it's a quite easy to manage in terms of project because it's sequential, does not allow for different tracks, it's in one go, so it's simple, let's put it like that. Also, the other benefit is that with Waterfall you can expect that you're going to be more or less, if everything goes as planned, you're going to be reaching out on time if if the planning stage was done properly. And those, I would say, that are the main benefits of Waterfall. Okay. Also, Waterfall is intended to shorter projects. Okay, not very complex and not very long, with lack of requirements and clarity. Okay. Then the other point that I was going to underline are the pitfalls. Okay, so some of the pitfalls of Waterfall is that it does not allow for lack of clear requirements. Okay, and the reason for this is because it's a project management that is designed in a sequential approach, does not allow for looping, it's not designed for complex projects, nor it's designed for different tracks at the same time. Okay, so essentially if you're looking to use Waterfall, use it for short projects, projects that have clear requirements, okay, and that are easy to implement, let's say. And mostly speaking, you're going to be using Waterfall for more traditional project management, more traditional, let's say, kind of companies, and not as much for tech. Okay, Can you use it for tech? Yes, you can. Okay, but it's much more, let's say, for banking or insurance companies, things that are more slower paced, let's say, without loads of surprises in terms of what is it that can come from the project. Okay, and that is normally what you're gonna get from tech. You're gonna have loads of surprises as you go. Okay, so you need to have a much more agile way of implementing. Okay, and this is where we're going to be jumping then into agile, and I'm going to give you that as a solution for you to go for more let's say complex kind of projects. Okay, so stick around. So talking then about agile, okay, so agile is not, let's say per se, a project management methodology, but rather a mindset or a way of implementing a project. Okay, so normally speaking, you're gonna be coming across four main methods, let's say, of agile. So I'm talking about Scrum, I'm talking about Kanban, extreme programming, and then crystal method. Okay, so if you are looking to go and get any more info on those, I'll just drop on the description below, okay, where you can actually check a bit more with regards to some of that. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing then specifically in Scrum. Okay, that is, I would say, the most widely used agile method that you're going to come across. Okay, why is it that Scrum is so or getting so popular? Let's say it's mostly because it's used on fast track implementations where it's mostly geared towards tech. But it's not just for tech. Okay, everything that has or has special needs in terms of requirements, that is fast-paced, that is a bit, let's say, in structure or unstructured in terms of what's coming, that needs several iterations. That's where you're gonna get Scrum playing a role. Okay, so let's then talk about some of the steps of Scrum. Normally speaking, you have the daily, okay, you have the product backlog, but also you have the sprint planning, you have the sprint review and retrospective. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a bit into that. Okay, so normally when you're talking about the daily Scrum, you're talking about 15 minutes of meeting that you have with your team if you are a project manager, or if you are part of that team, of course. And then you can have that meeting with the developers, you can have that meeting with more people also from the business side of things. But essentially during those 15 minutes you are looking looking at the Scrum board, where you're looking to understand what was done yesterday, what is it that you're going to be focusing on doing today, and also the other thing is to understand any potential blockers that you may come across. Okay, so those are some of the points that normally speaking you cover on the daily. Okay, normally the daily should be between 15 minutes or 10 minutes, but in some cases you can go for sure up to half an hour. Okay, aside from that, you have one thing that is called the product backlog. Okay, the product backlog, normally speaking, should have been defined by the client, okay, and specifically speaking by the product owner. I'll give you that in a sec. Okay, but that's where you're gonna have everything that is set in terms of the different tickets, change requests that you're gonna find on that specific backlog that normally speaking is called product backlog. Okay, then the next step is around sprint planning. Okay, during the sprint planning, the objective is for you to actually to take a look into the product backlog, okay, and to take out from that product backlog the series of requirements, of tickets, let's say, that you have, and choose the ones that actually should be part of the next sprint. Okay, and that should be done with you, the project manager, with the development team, with the business analysts, and on some cases you're gonna have also product owners that want to be part of that. Okay, but normally speaking, this is how it works, is a fundamental exercise of Scrum for you to actually to define what should be part of the next sprint. Okay, then moving forward, what is it that you have? You're gonna have also the sprint review. Okay, and also we were speaking about the sprint retrospective. Okay, so normally speaking, that occurs at the end of the sprint. Okay, where you have the deployment, everything was live and kicking, let's say. You're going to be reviewing all the different steps that went out in terms of the sprint, okay? But also you're going to be focusing in terms of the sprint retrospective. You're going to be looking at the kind of lessons learned, where you understand what went wrong, what went good, let's say, that you can actually take those let's say learnings into the following sprint, okay, with the objective of actually improving the way of working. Okay, normally speaking, I advise that you should be having 2 sprints in advance, okay, so that you have a better view. But also I would advise for you to have not let's say a sprint retrospective straight away at the end of each sprint, okay, but that depends a bit. It's a variation of Scrum, okay, but normally speaking, you should have that at the end of each. Okay, so then talking about roles as well. So you have specific roles within Scrum. Okay, so you have one that is a product owner. The product owner should be the representative of the client, okay, and should be someone that actually holds all the requirements, hold the responsibility, but also the decision power actually to tackle any questions that you may have with regards from the to the business, and what is it that we need to move forward in terms of priorities, and in terms of the tickets that we need to address and implement. Okay, then you have the Scrum Master, okay, that is essentially the facilitator, okay, that coordinates everything between the product owner, the sprint in itself, but also the implementation team. Okay, and the implementation team are those that actually are made in most cases of architects, developers, business analysts, testers, etc. And there are people that actually implement the project. Okay, talking about some of the benefits of Scrum, and also some of the pitfalls to close. Okay, some of the benefits are that Scrum is quite flexible. It's quite geared towards fast-paced implementation. It's quite geared towards the lack of clear requirements, and this is where the role of the product owner is so fundamental, because it's someone that will be feeding into the team and addressing more requirements, but also going to be addressing any questions that the team may have in terms of building and then the implementation in itself. Okay, those are some of the roles, but also some of the benefits of Scrum. Talking about the pitfalls to close. Okay, some of the pitfalls that you're going to come across are that I always underline when people actually want to use Scrum, is that you need to have someone that plays the role of the product owner. This person needs to be accessible, needs to be able to communicate properly, needs to know, ideally speaking, what are the business requirements, what is it that you would like to go as a company in terms of directions, but also, ideally speaking, this person should be actually knowledgeable about the platform that you're going to be implementing or using, okay, so that he or she can actually better marry the benefits, the business requirements, sorry, with the platform. Okay, if you do not have such a person, okay, mostly likely the project will not go well. Okay, most likely it will go painfully, I would say. Okay, so that is one of the biggest pitfalls of Scrum. And then there is a clear inclination towards lack of organization, complexity. So you need to have a Scrum Master that really knows what he's doing to work as a facilitator, but also as someone that actually coordinates things. Okay, so that things actually go as it should, and to avoid complexity and confusion. Okay, but there is a new type of project management methodology that was thought actually to tackle all of those problems or challenges. Okay, so stick around for the last one. So let's then talk about hybrid, okay, to close, okay. What is this about? So hybrid essentially is a combination, let's say, of both waterfall and agile, okay. So it combines the more, let's say, structured and planning approach, okay, of waterfall with a more adaptive and agile way of implementing things, okay. So moving then into the steps, okay. So normally speaking, you're gonna have the discovery session, okay. That this session can be one or more than one, okay, with the objective of actually clarifying what are the different requirements, okay, of the client. And you can have more than one, okay. Maybe you need to go back, clarify something, so you can actually do that. But normally speaking, you have one discovery session. The other point that is important for you to go through is then the solution design session. Okay, so essentially you should have one or several sessions with your team where you review the requirements that you receive from the customer, okay, and together with the team you think on how is it that this can actually work, okay, and then you work against the business requirements, okay. You have it clarified, you sit down with the customer, you go through everything, and then you actually sign off the requirements, okay. Then the next stage is around the let's say the designing, okay, of the implementation that you are going to build. Could be, for instance, if you look at CRM and specifically, for instance, into Salesforce, you're going to be building then whatever came out of the business requirements on top of the Salesforce system, okay. And then, sorry, as a next step, we are looking at, for instance, the testing and stage, the testing stage, okay, where you're going to be looking at user acceptance tests. You're going to be looking at making sure that there are some internal demos that validate everything before you actually move into the customer. You're going to be looking at demos with the customer to make sure that everything goes as expected, okay. Then the next step of hybrid is essentially around testing the release, okay, before it actually goes. Then you're gonna have one stage that is around the deployment, but also the training stage, okay, making sure that everyone is actually trained before you actually deploy it, and you have the comms ready before you actually deploy everything. Then last but not least, I always say that it's important for you to have the lessons learned, okay, a clear review of that. What was that you needed to learn from this sprint, okay, and then moving forward so that you can actually evolve and get the best out of the next sprint that you're gonna work with. The other thing that also you need to take a look at are the KPIs, okay. Is it against budget, time, the customer satisfaction? All of those are also essentially in terms of the hybrid approach, so that you are geared towards success, okay. Then the other thing that you need really to understand with hybrid is that although you have the structure approach, the implementation is done in agile manner, so in sprint mode. And normally speaking, you're gonna define the sprints as being two week sprints, 3-week sprints or 4-week sprints. Okay, on some cases you're gonna have people that work with minor sprints and with major sprints. Okay, normally speaking, in my view, I tend to work with sprints that actually have the same length. Okay, so those could be sprints of 3 weeks. Okay, where you have 2 weeks or development, let's put it like that, after the business requirements, etc. And during those 2 weeks, you're gonna have time to go back and forth, and then you have the third week where you close on the testing, okay, and then you prep everything for the training and to the rollout. Okay, those are then the main stages. Okay, then some of the benefits I would say of the hybrid, okay, is that it's geared towards low kind of complexity projects, but at the same time can be also geared towards high complexity projects. Okay, the tendency would be to use them for high complexity projects. Okay, also complex projects that although do not have a completely clear view of the requirements, okay, you're gonna have the possibility of getting some of those requirements via the discovery sessions, and then due to the iterations of the sprints, okay, you're gonna be building then on top of what was built before. Okay, so those are some of the benefits. It also allows for a much more structured approach with a flexible, agile implementation. Okay, so in terms of pitfalls, I never came across any. Okay, so that's it. Okay, thank you for your time, and let's close this session of today. To close, just to wrap up, okay, so do we actually have one project management methodology that is better than the other one? I would say no. Okay, all the 3 project management methodologies that I mentioned are all valid. It will depend on your type of project, okay, and also on the type of resources or people that you have available. So for instance, if you have a more traditional way or a more traditional industry, if the project is sequential, if it's a low complexity project, then most likely, and if you have all the business requirements straight ahead, then most likely Waterfall is the correct project methodology. Okay, if you need to go into a much more faster pace, okay, if you don't have all the business requirements straight ahead or clear, and if you have someone that actually works as a product owner that understands the business side of things, but also the tech side of things, that can facilitate and address all the problems or questions that you may have in terms of implementation, in terms of priorities, etc. And if you need several iterations, I would say that then Agile, and specifically speaking Scrum, is the project management methodology that you are looking for. Then lastly, if you do not have a product owner that has the knowledge from the business side nor from the platform side that you're going to be using, but you have a need of going into fast mode, several iterations, I'd say that, and complex, I would say most likely the best possible approach for you is hybrid, because it allows for a more structured approach, but at the same time with the flexibility and the adaptability of Agile with several iterations and sprints. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully this was an interesting session. Please join me on this journey, subscribe, okay, and take care. Okay, cheers, peace.